it's something you have to practice. That's the thing. Train your senses through practice. Most people want it as a gift, in which they're gifted the ability to see. I wonder whether, I think it was Elisha's servant who Elisha asked that his eyes might be open so he could see what Elisha was seeing. And he was seeing, a whole heavenly host of fiery chariots and angels and stuff. Elijah, did God just give him the ability, or did he learn the ability by engaging with God and being in relationship with God? Could the servant continue to see after that moment, or did he have to go and practice to learn how to do that occasionally? Now, we have gifts of the Holy Spirit that are there to inspire us to believe that our spirit has abilities beyond the normal that we've been taught through science and being brought up: the taste, the smell, the touch, the hearing, the sight. The Holy Spirit gifting us an image or a picture or thoughts or words in our mind gives us the inspiration to believe I have the ability to be able to perceive something beyond the physical realm. But do we practice that until we were doing it, or were we still relying on the Holy Spirit giving us those things? Because if we are, then we're still operating as children when we need to mature and become adults, in that our spirit can perceive exactly the same things that the Spirit might communicate to us as a picture or an image or anything like that. But it does require practice, training our senses to learn how to do it. And most people aren't probably willing to put in the effort to do it and to practice. To train yourself to be really good at anything takes a lot of practice. When you look at someone, I don't know, playing tennis on the TV, and Wimbledon or US Open or something, and you watch them and they think, well, they make it look really easy. They just run and hit the ball and know seemingly what sort of shots to play. But they've trained and trained and trained for years to get to that level of ability to be able to play tennis. And there are a lot of people in the world who play tennis for a sort of hobby or pastime or exercise that cannot compete with those people because they just have not put the practice in. They're not physically fit like they are. They've not trained hitting repetitive shots over and over and over. And literally, you can get a ball machine that fires different balls at different spin things to you, and people can practice hitting 100 balls at a time with the forehand and the backhand, and then volleying at the net and all sorts of things. And those people who want to get better at tennis will do that. Those people who just want to enjoy the odd game won't. They'll just play the odd game. And some people might be quite naturally gifted, hand-eye coordination, being able to hit a ball with a racket, and they might be able to go on court and actually hit the ball quite well, but they probably won't beat someone who's probably got lesser skills or lesser natural ability, but has practiced and has perfected being able to play tennis. But if those people who've got natural skills also put in the practice, then you've got people who are really, really gifted at tennis. Now, some people may, like children, may have some sort of natural ability, but they have been encouraged. Like Tiger Woods was picking up a golf club, a cut down golf club, when he was like 2 or something, and so like the Williams twins or sisters, sorry, they were playing tennis and their father was coaching them at tennis when they were very, very young, to which they were encouraged to pursue that as a career. And other people just enjoy the odd game, or might learn to play at school and never go beyond that. And that's fine because they don't really want to, and that's perfectly fine for them. I was sort of in between, in that I'm naturally skillful hand-eye coordination with rackets. I can pick up any racket and generally just play a game. and I practiced enough to get me to a certain level, but I didn't have a tennis club where I lived. I just had local courts. I didn't table tennis. I did have a club, and I got quite good at table tennis, ping pong in the US, and got at a level that I was sort of county sort of level. But then to go further than that, to become national level, I would have had to really put in a lot more effort, and I wasn't willing to do it because I had a lot of other things in life that I was doing, that I enjoyed and whatever. And so I was never really motivated to go any further. I look back and think, well, how far could I have got if I had put in the effort? I don't know, but it doesn't really matter because I didn't, so I just accept, hey, I can still pick up a racket and generally play with anybody at a level that I can get the ball back. If I was to play with someone who was a professional tennis player and they decided they were going to play their A game, I would hardly get anything back, I doubt, because I just wouldn't be, unless they hit it straight at me, so, all of this is a mixture of what we have the ability to do, but what we need to practice to do so that we're more skilled at it and that it becomes natural to us and becomes our state of being. When you are a top professional athlete, you have that as who you are. It becomes, you can just go out and you can play at a level that no one else could because you've got yourself to that level. Now it's part of who you are. Most people aren't at that level, but you can be in the spiritual dynamic. We're all sons of God, and we're all created to have the ability to communicate with God and operate in sonship. Therefore, I think we can train our senses to go beyond the gift or the inspiration to it becoming, well, this is who I am. I have this ability to be able to experience God, engage heavenly things, see spiritual dynamics, and experience those things. And I think God has designed it to enable us to do it, but we have to learn how to do it because we weren't born with those things naturally operating. Our spirit was created in that way, but we're having to be reintegrated, spirit, soul, and body, to be able to function as God intended. Because our mind gets in the way mostly. We don't believe we can. We've been told you can't. We've been told people who see things are weird, so that we are put off being weird because society treats those people as being weird when they talk about seeing things in the room. And that wouldn't go down too well in certain professions or jobs. If you're operating as a scientist and you tell people that you can see weird stuff, probably it's not going to help your career path. So people tend to focus, on certain areas and don't really go to as far as they could. If you enjoy these videos, would you please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe? It really does help. Thank you very much.